From creepers that gave you almost no warning before exploding, to a fishing rod that could only ever catch fish. Here are 47 Minecraft changes you never noticed. The creeper only exists because Notch made a mistake. He was trying to build a pig model, but instead of making the body longer, he accidentally made it taller, and ended up with this tall, green, leggy thing staring back at him. He kept it, gave it a green texture, and made it explode on sight. The most recognizable mob in all of Minecraft was never supposed to exist. Thanks, Notch. When the Ender Dragon was first added in Beta 1.9 pre-release 4, killing it did absolutely nothing special. No dramatic light show, no beams shooting into the sky. It just died and disappeared like any other mob. The death animation you know today, where the dragon slowly crumbles apart into beams of light, wasn't added until the very next pre-release a couple of weeks later. For a brief window in Minecraft history, beating the final boss felt about as satisfying as killing a chicken. That terrifying ghast scream that's haunted your Nether trips for years? It's a cat. Composer C418 recorded his cat making noises while being disturbed in its sleep, and those sounds became the ghast's iconic wail. So the next time a ghast catches you off guard and you nearly fall into lava, a sleepy, annoyed cat is responsible for that. Skeletons dropping arrows makes complete sense. They're literally carrying bows, but originally, skeletons dropped feathers when they die, the same as chickens. The drop was eventually changed to arrows, which is one of those changes so obvious it's surprising it wasn't like that from the start. Brewing stands used to work for free. No blaze powder required, you just loaded your ingredients and your water bottles and it ran automatically. The blaze powder fuel requirement wasn't added until 1.9, meaning for years players were brewing potions without ever needing to farm blazes for fuel. Considering blaze rods are already required to craft the brewing stand in the first place, it's a bit of a double tax. For most of Minecraft's history, placing a painting meant getting whatever the game felt like giving you. There was no selection menu. Placement was completely random. If you wanted a specific painting, your only option was to keep breaking and replacing it until the right one appeared. Individual painting items with preset variants weren't added to the creative inventory until 1.21, so builders spent over a decade gambling on wall decorations. When maps were first added, Crafting 1 immediately showed you a fully drawn view of the world. No exploration required. The whole point of a map, revealing terrain as you actually discover it, wasn't how it worked at first. That exploration-based filling came later, and completely changed how maps felt to use. When wolves were first tamed in Minecraft, the only collar color available was red. Dye compatibility wasn't added until Beta 1.9 pre-release 5, when all 16 colors became an option. Before that, telling your wolves apart was basically impossible if you had more than one. Most players know the Anvil has a 50 character name limit, but originally it was only 35 characters. The reason it got bumped up is actually because of copper blocks. When they were first added, the earliest oxidation stage was called lightly weathered instead of exposed, meaning you could craft something called waxed lightly weathered cut copper stairs, which clocks in at 41 characters. That alone forced Mojang to raise the limit. Then they just renamed the block anyway, making the whole thing unnecessary. The character limit stayed though, so at least something good came out of it. Trapdoors have been in Minecraft since Beta 1.6 in 2011, but for a long time there was only one type, wood. The iron trapdoor didn't exist until Java Edition 1.8 3 years later. Unlike wooden trapdoors, iron ones can only be opened with a redstone signal, which made them a much more useful tool for redstone builds and mob farms the moment they were added. When experience orbs were first added in Beta 1.8, every single mob dropped its own individual orbs with no merging at all. Kill enough mobs in one spot and the sheer number of orb entities would tank the game's performance. The wiki even uses Beta 1.8 as a specific example of this causing extreme lag. The merging system, where nearby orbs of the same value combine into one entity, was added later purely as a performance fix. When the Anvil was first added in Java Edition 1.4.2, repairing items on it cost no experience at all. You could repair anything for free. The XP cost was added later, and with it came the infamous too expensive cap that still frustrates players today. For a brief window, the Anvil was one of the most powerful tools in the game, and nobody had to grind mobs to use it. Name tags work differently than most people think they did originally. When they were first added in Java Edition 1.6.1, you couldn't write on them at all. They came as blank items with no text, and you had to take them to an anvil to give them a name. Before that anvil step existed in the game, name tags were completely useless. So for a short window, the item existed in the game with no actual function. When the Riptide enchantment was first added in Java Edition 1.13, it could launch you through the air on land regardless of the weather. Rain, sunshine, it didn't matter. You could Riptide anywhere. This was quickly changed so it only works in rain or water, which made a lot more sense given the enchantment is supposed to simulate being propelled by a water current. The original version would have made Elytra almost unnecessary. When Tridents were first added in Java Edition 1.13, there was no loyalty enchantment. If you threw your Trident and it landed somewhere you couldn't reach, to lava, off a cliff, into the void, it was just gone. No way to get it back. Loyalty was added in the same update, but wasn't available on Tridents from the start, meaning for a short window, players were losing one of the rarest weapons in the game to bad throws. The enchantment that makes it return return to you was clearly not optional. When piglins were first added in Java Edition 1.16, bartering with them gave you a much smaller range of possible items. The loot table has been expanded several times since then, with additions like Blackstone, Soul Sand, and Ender Pearls joining the pool. Early piglins were basically just handing out the same few items on repeat, which made the mechanic feel a lot more limited than it does today. Spider jockeys, skeletons riding spiders, have always been rare, but they used to be significantly more common. Originally, any spider that spawned had a 1% chance of becoming a spider jockey. That doesn't sound like much, but it was high enough that veteran players encountered them fairly regularly. The spawn rate was reduced over time, making them one of the rarest things you can stumble across naturally in the game today. Leather armor dyeing has been in Minecraft since Java Edition 1.4.2, but the way it worked originally was very different. You could keep combining dyes onto the same piece of armor over and over, mixing colors freely with no limit. At some point, this was capped, meaning once you've applied enough dyes to a piece, you can't keep mixing. You have to wash it in a cauldron first and start over. It sounds like a minor change, but anyone who spent time building specific color combinations felt it immediately. Rabbit stew is already one of the most awkward foods in the game to make. It needs 5 separate ingredients just to craft. When it was first added in Java Edition 1.8, it restored 10 hunger points, making it one of the best food sources in the game. It was later nerfed down to 5 hunger points, cutting its value in half. Gathering 5 different ingredients for a bowl that fills the same hunger as a piece of bread stopped making any sense at that point. Ender chests work the way they do now because of a change most players never knew happened. When they were first added in Java Edition 1.3.1, Ender chests weren't personal. Every player on a server shared the same inventory inside them. That meant anyone could open your Ender chest and take whatever was in it. The personal storage system, where each player gets their own private inventory, was added shortly after. Without that change, Ender chests would have been one of the least secure storage options in the game. Endermen have always been able to pick up and move blocks, but originally the list of blocks they could grab was much longer, including blocks that really shouldn't have been on it, like bedrock. This was quickly patched, and the list of blocks Endermen can pick up has been gradually restricted ever since. Today they can only move a small selection of blocks like dirt, sand, and gravel. What's the weirdest Enderman block interaction you've seen? Comment down below. The original Steve skin had a brown goatee on his face. It was removed in 2009, just a few months after it was added, because Mojang wanted the character to look more gender neutral. For the next 13 years, Steve walked around completely clean-shaven, with the beard only appearing in official promotional art. It wasn't until Java Edition 1.19.3 in 2022 that the beard was finally brought back to the actual in-game skin. For the first 4 years of Minecraft's existence, killing the Ender Dragon was a one-time event. Once she was dead, that was it. There was no way to bring her back. The respawn mechanic, where you place 4 end crystals around the exit portal to resummon her, wasn't added until Java Edition 1.9 in 2016. Before that, players who wanted to fight the dragon again had to start an entirely new world. When the Ender Dragon was first added in Beta 1.9, the boss health bar at the top of the screen didn't say Ender Dragon, it just said boss health. It wasn't until the Wither was added in Java Edition 1.4.2 that Mojang realized they needed to be more specific, and both boss bars were updated to show the actual mob's name. As a bonus, if you manage to put a name tag on a Wither, its boss bar will display whatever name you gave it, so you could technically make it say boss health again. Drawing a bow in Minecraft slows you down to a crawl, but that movement penalty didn't always exist. Originally, you could charge and fire a bow at full sprint with no speed reduction at all, making bow combat much more aggressive. The slowdown mechanic was added later to make ranged combat feel more deliberate and force players to choose between mobility and accuracy. Anyone who played early Minecraft and then came back to the current game probably noticed this one immediately. Finding slime chunks used to be something players could work out themselves using their world seed and an external tool. For years, slime chunks were determined entirely by the world seed combined with chunk coordinates, meaning if you knew your seed, you could calculate exactly where slimes would spawn underground. That calculation method was changed in Java Edition 1.18 when world generation was overhauled, meaning old seed-based slime chunk maps no longer work on worlds converted to the new generation. If you converted an old world, your slime farm might be sitting in the wrong place. Sprinting wasn't always in Minecraft. Before Beta 1.8, there was no sprint button. Every player moved at the same walking pace all the time. No double tapping forward, no speed boost, nothing. Beta 1.8 added sprinting as part of the adventure update, along with hunger. The two mechanics were directly linked. Sprinting drains your hunger bar, which is exactly why hunger was added at the same time. Before that, players just slowly walked everywhere, which made the game feel significantly more dangerous at night. The enchanted golden apple, what most players call the notch apple, used to be craftable. Originally in Java Edition 1.3.1, you could make one by surrounding an apple with 8 blocks of gold in a crafting table. That's 72 gold ingots for a single apple. It was expensive, but in a world with infinite resources, it was technically doable. The recipe was completely removed in Java Edition 1.9, making enchanted golden apples loot-only items. Now the only way to get one is to find it in a chest, which is exactly why they feel so special when you do. Before Beta 1.8, ate, Minecraft had no hunger bar. Food didn't fill a bar. It just instantly healed hearts the moment you ate it, like a health potion. Eating a cooked pork chop would just snap some hearts back immediately. No waiting, no saturation. The adventure update completely changed how food worked, and the mechanic has stayed the same ever since. Minecraft didn't always have achievements. They were first added in beta 1.5 years after the game launched, and when you earned one, it would broadcast "achievement get" in chat to every player in the world. That phrase was actually a deliberate reference to an old internet meme from early Super Mario Sunshine screenshots. In Java Edition 1.12, the entire achievement system was scrapped and replaced with advancements, which is what Java players use today. Bedrock Edition kept the original achievement system and still uses it now. For the first 8 years of Minecraft's existence, there was no recipe book. If you didn't know how to craft something, your only options were to Google it, watch a YouTube video, or just figure it out by trial and error. Notch deliberately kept tutorials out of the game because he wanted players to discover things naturally. The recipe book wasn't added until Java Edition 1.12 in 2017 alongside the advancement system. For a game with hundreds of craftable items, that's a long time to go without an in-game guide. Rain, snow, and thunderstorms weren't always part of Minecraft. Weather was added in beta 1.5, the same update that brought in achievements. Before that, every day in Minecraft was clear. No dark skies, no wet mobs, no lightning strikes turning your creepers into charged ones. Notch actually came up with some of the weather effects live on Twitter, responding to fan suggestions about what rain should do. Higher fishing luck during rain? That came from a fan reply he thought was a good idea. Minecraft didn't always have biomes. When the game first launched, the entire world was essentially one flat green landscape. The same grass, the same trees, the same terrain everywhere you went. Biomes were first added in Alpha 1.2.0 in 2010, introducing deserts, forests, and snowy areas for the first time. The world went from a single repeated environment to something that actually felt worth exploring. Enchanting wasn't added to Minecraft until beta 1.9 pre-release 4. Before that, every tool and weapon you crafted was exactly as strong as its material. No power bows, no sharpness swords, no silk touch. Gear was purely functional with no way to upgrade it beyond the material tier. When enchanting was added, it completely changed how endgame progression worked, giving players a reason to grind XP and build enchanting rooms. It's hard to imagine playing without it now, but for the first 2 years of the game, it just didn't exist. Potion brewing wasn't added until beta 1.9 pre-release 2, the same update cycle that brought enchanting. Before that, the only way to heal in survival was food. There were no fire resistance potions, no strength potions, no invisibility. The brewing stand, blaze rods, and the entire Nether farming loop that most players take for granted all came in at once as part of the same overhaul. Fighting any boss without a single potion to your name was just how the game worked for its first 2 years. Experience orbs didn't exist until beta 1.8. Before that, killing mobs dropped nothing but their loot. No green orbs, no XP bar, no levels. The experience system was added as part of the adventure update specifically to give players a reason to fight mobs beyond just getting resources. At launch, the XP was purely decorative and tied to your score on the death screen. It wasn't until enchanting arrived in beta 1.9 that levels actually became useful, turning XP from a cosmetic number into one of the most important resources in the game. The Nether wasn't part of Minecraft at launch. It was added in the Halloween update in October 2010, which was one of the biggest single updates the game had ever received at that point. Before that, the game only had the overworld. No portals, no lava seas, no ghasts, no zombie pigmen. The Halloween update also added maps, clocks, and jack-o'-lanterns in the same patch. For the first year of Minecraft's existence, the entire game took place in one dimension with no way to travel anywhere else. The end didn't exist until Java Edition 1.0.0, released in November 2011. But what's less known is that the end was never the original plan. Notch had been working on a completely different dimension called the Sky Dimension, essentially a floating islands world that would serve as a kind of heaven to the Nether's hell. It was scrapped because of performance issues with how light was calculated in the floating island environment. Rather than abandon the work entirely, the concept was reworked into the end, darker, emptier, and home to the Ender Dragon instead. Villages were actually added to Minecraft before villagers were. The structures themselves appeared first in Java Edition Beta 1.8, generating as completely empty ghost towns with no inhabitants at all. Villagers didn't show up until Java Edition 1.0.0, the full release. So for a while, players could walk through fully generated villages with houses, farms, and wells and find absolutely nobody home. The empty village phase wasn't a bug, it was just the order Mojang chose to add things. Before Elytra were added in Java Edition 1.9, the only way to fly in survival was riding a pig off a cliff, which isn't exactly practical. Players had been asking for some form of flight for years, and when Elytra finally arrived, they completely changed how people explored the world. What started as a simple gliding tool became the fastest way to travel in the game after firework rockets were added as a boost method, turning something meant to let you drift between mountains into a full-on rocket-powered flight system that made every other transport method feel slow by comparison. Shields weren't added to Minecraft until Java Edition 1.9 in February 2016. Before that, the only way to reduce incoming damage damage was armor. There was no blocking mechanic of any kind. Java Edition used to have sword blocking, where right-clicking with a sword would reduce damage, and that was removed when shields were introduced. The PvP community was so attached to sword blocking that many players and servers still refuse to update past Java Edition 1.8 just to keep it. Shields replaced something players actually love, which is why 1.9 remains one of the most controversial updates in the game's history. Beds weren't added to Minecraft until Beta 1.3 in February 2011. Before that, there was no way to skip the night at all. You just had to survive it every single time, fighting off mobs in the dark with no option to fast forward to morning. No bed, no setting your spawn point, nothing. When beds were finally added, they completely changed how survival felt. Suddenly, the night became optional instead of mandatory. And if you think phantoms are annoying now for forcing you to sleep, imagine playing Minecraft where every single night was unavoidable. Fire used to spread almost infinitely in Minecraft. If lava generated near a forest, the entire thing would burn down before you could do anything about it. And unlike today, the fire would just keep spreading until there was nothing left to burn. Entire landscapes could be wiped out by a single lava pool. The spread rate was heavily nerfed at some point to make it much slower and more manageable, which is why modern Minecraft fire feels almost tame compared to what veteran players remember. Building with wood near lava in early Minecraft was basically asking for your base to disappear overnight. Only a handful of items in Minecraft are resistant to being destroyed. The Nether Star survives explosions, Netherite items survive fire, and that's pretty much the entire list. With so few items that have this kind of protection, you'd think they'd be completely safe, but a bug once made it possible to destroy even them. Before version 1.17, Shulker boxes had a major flaw. If one was destroyed by fire, a cactus, or an explosion, it didn't drop its contents. Instead, the entire box and every item inside it vanished instantly. That meant even fireproof netherite gear could be lost forever if the Shulker box holding it burned. Mojang eventually addressed this by changing Shulker boxes in 1.17. Rather than deleting everything inside when broken, they now scatter their contents onto the ground. This allows fireproof items to survive as intended and gives the rest of your valuables a fighting chance to escape whatever destroyed the box. You'd probably assume the solution was to use a fence gate, but in this version of Minecraft, fence gates simply didn't exist. Getting in and out of a fenced farm meant either breaking and replacing a fence every time, building nearby blocks to jump over it, or using the least attractive option, a regular door. None of these solutions were ideal, but most players settled on the door because, despite looking completely out of place, it was by far the most practical. Thankfully, fence gates were eventually added, and I don't think anyone's eager to go back. You know that you can actually play Minecraft for free, and don't worry about Mojang knocking on your door because it's totally legal. If you go to classic.minecraft.net, you can play it for free, but there isn't much to do other than build and destroy a few blocks. But that's how Minecraft was structured at the start. Also, there were some insane animal use changes. For example, shearing a mushroom, you get the mushrooms, but if you click a bowl on it, you get a mushroom stew. But if you feed them with any flour, you get something completely different, but super useful. But if you want to know what, you will have to watch this video.